Breaking news into CBS Sports HQ. Former Steelers pass rusher Bud Dupree has come to terms on a deal with the Tennessee Titans. The agreement will fetch Dupree in excess of $16.5 million a year. Dupree tore his ACL last December, but all signs point to the 6-year veteran being on schedule for a full recovery. Joining us now with more on the marriage in Tennessee, CBS Sports NFL analyst and two-time Super Bowl champ with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, always a pleasure having you on. Details still being ironed out here in terms of years, but $16.5 million. Dupree becomes a top 15 edge rusher in terms of average annual value. Your initial thoughts on this deal?
I'm not surprised. I think this was a fair market. That is a fair market for Bud Dupree, especially with him having a season-ending injury last year and not being able to finish the entire season healthy. But like you said, he's on schedule to be healthy by the start of the season. This was a huge need for the Tennessee Titans. They made a splash signing earlier today and signing Danico Autry as well, talented defensive lineman from the Indianapolis Colts. I think in 3 years he had around 20 sacks. Sacking the quarterback was something the Tennessee Titans couldn't do last year. They tried to improve when it came to that element. You remember they went out and got Vic Beasley, Jadeveon Clowney, I'm sorry. Those two guys didn't do anything for the organization. And this is still surprising that they were so good as a team based on the inability to sack the quarterback, to say the least. So being able to get two defensive linemen still in the prime of their careers, not to mention a dominant edge rusher when healthy in Bud Dupree, their defense got better today.
It's important to note what you just did say there. A couple targets did walk earlier in the day out of Tennessee. Jonnu Smith finding a new home here, but they do make a big splash in the place that they did need it most. Weren't many weaknesses in Tennessee last season, but the biggest one was pass rush. Assuming Dupree comes back in full form, are you comfortable calling Tennessee one of the handful of true Super Bowl contenders?
In the AFC, yes. Clearly, you have to like their chances in their division. Not knowing exactly what we will see from Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts, I think you would have to have the Tennessee Titans #1 in their division, followed by the Colts, and then, of course, not knowing exactly what Jacksonville and the Houston Texans will do this upcoming season. It's basically a two-team race in the NFC South, and then when you look at the entire AFC in totality, you start and you stop that conversation with the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. So clearly, yes, the Tennessee Titans, they are a championship caliber team. They have structure on the offensive side. They're starting to establish structure on the defensive side. But the one concern, I think, when you look at the offense, will we see the same Ryan Tannehill, knowing that Arthur Smith is not calling plays there anymore in Tennessee? Will we still see a dominant rushing attack led by Derrick Henry? Because Arthur Smith played a big part in their offensive success. And they basically carried their team over the last few years because, like I said, they had issues in rushing the passer. They had issues in getting sacks on opposing quarterbacks. But regardless, without Arthur Smith, they still have a sound structure on the offensive side. They're establishing that on the defensive side. And when you win your division, you have an automatic seat in the playoffs. And once you get into the tournament, Joe, anything can happen.
That it can. And I think there's something very interesting here. Important to note that Dupree now going to play for a head coach in Mike Vrabel, who once upon a time played a somewhat similar role for a couple teams in Foxborough that know a thing or two about a title. We know Vrabes likes to still put the chest plate on, mix it up with the guys in practice. Do you see this move elevating Dupree's production?
If he's healthy, I think so. I think over the last 2 years, Bud Dupree finally hit the light switch. Going back to his 2019 campaign, he had double-digit sacks. It's safe to say, Joe, if he finished the season healthy this past year in 2020, he would have finished with double-digit sacks as well. Remember when he went down, he had 8.5. I think he only played in 11 and 12 ball games. So if you factor in the games he missed, yes, I think he would have finished with double-digit sacks in 2 straight years. So if he's healthy, I think he has an opportunity to get to that 11, 12 sack window, and that would be wonderful for the Tennessee Titans defense. You look at their defense, their structure, they have lack edge rushers. I mean, they've had issues when it comes to that department. I think instantly Bud Dupree, he improves that area. And for them, like I said, I'm surprised to see the success they've had because they haven't been dominant in that area when it comes to rushing the passer. And one thing we know about the National Football League, Joe, if you can't put pressure on quarterbacks, you don't stand a chance to win. oddly enough, the Tennessee Titans, they were still able to win ball games.
It's a quarterback league, and the best thing you can do is move the quarterback. We do have to talk about the void left in Pittsburgh now. You can almost directly trace the Steelers' struggles last season back to Dupree's injury. 11-0. Dupree goes down against the Ravens with the ACL. Then it was 1-4 from there on out, including that early bow out to a rival in the Browns in the playoffs. I understand the cap situation across the league right now, but is this bad business, a bad business decision by Pittsburgh letting this young stud walk?
It depends on who the Steelers valued more for their team. I felt like the likelihood of them signing Bud Dupree and Juju Smith-Schuster was not likely, Joe. So if you're telling me you lose Bud Dupree and you're able to sign Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm not necessarily saying that's a wash, but at least you bring back one of your prominent players, right, on the offensive side. And the best case scenario would be you sign both, but because of their cap restrictions, they were not going to be able to do so. So if you lose Bud Dupree and you sign Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm not saying the fans would be ecstatic about that, but I think they can take that. But if you lose both guys, if you lose one of your more dominant defensive players and clearly your most reliable pass catcher, then that's a huge loss by the organization. We don't know exactly what will happen with Juju Smith-Schuster, but when I saw Bud Dupree sign this huge deal, this nice deal with the Tennessee Titans, I instantly thought, well, maybe Pittsburgh, they're trying to devote more of their money to Juju Smith-Schuster. But will that happen? Will he sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers? We don't know. In the next few coming days, we will find out. But hopefully they're able to retain Juju Smith-Schuster's services since they lost Bud Dupree.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.